We ready? You guys ready? I now call the November 5th, 2019 regular council meeting to order. Will council members please denote your presence by depressing your yes switch?
We have no strings.
Stand by. Yeah, our voting buttons are not working. Stand by. No, it's over here.
Mr. Mayor, it looks like we're going to have to just manually call votes tonight.
Okay.
We're not getting any response out of the system.
Okay, so are we, as far as the roll call goes?
We'll just have the clerk go through it.
We'll need to have a motion to excuse folks,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Well, first I would like to clarify that Mayor Powell is taking part in the meeting telephonically and will participate in the reconsideration of the sale of the former Plains Furniture property. The chair would entertain a motion to by minute action excuse the absence of Councilman Friel.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, seconded by Councilman Huber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
This is different. Council meetings are also televised and can be viewed on cable channel 192. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is that the correct way of doing it? Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the October 15th, 2019 regular council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on October 22nd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Bates. Any amendments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the October 29th, 2019 special council meeting as published in the Casper Star Tribune on November 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilman Cathy. Any amendments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Pardon me, with all voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the minutes of the October 29th, 2019 executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Bates. Any amendments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Now I'd like to read a declaration of recognition for the former mayor and Member of Council Barbara Waters. Whereas the City of Casper deeply mourns the passing of former Mayor and Member of Council Barbara Waters. Whereas Barb Waters was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and moved to Casper in 1980. And whereas Ms. Waters used her criminal justice degree to serve Casper residents within the Casper Police Department, where she worked for 9 years. And whereas her service to the community continued as a council member from 2002 to 2005, and she served as mayor in 2004. And whereas Barb and her husband Mark raised their children Jessica and Samuel in Casper, as well as contributed to and supported the Jewish community. And whereas the Casper City Council wishes to recognize and honor Ms. Waters for her service, I declare on behalf of the entire City Council our sincere appreciation for Barb Waters' exemplary contributions to our city. The chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the November 5th, 2019 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, second by Councilwoman Lutz. Any abstentions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
Now is the time we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with council to come forward. As stated on the first page of the agenda, we ask the following. Please state your name and address. Direct all questions and comments to the mayor and only the mayor. No personal attacks on staff or council will be tolerated. Council will not respond to personnel matters. They will be referred to the city manager. Questions posed by speakers may or may not be responded to by council, and presentations will be limited to 5 minutes, and no duplication of speakers will be allowed, nor will there be time extensions permitted. Also, the reconsideration of the former Plains Furniture property is not a public hearing. So this is the time that if you wish to speak for or against this issue, to come and speak to us. But just keep in mind there are a lot of people here, so this 5-minute time limit will be strictly adhered to. So also try not to duplicate.
Got a mayor, huh?
Just filling in.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk about overbilling.
Can we get your name?
Craig Sheets, Orange County, California. First of all, I'm going to start out with mail fraud. Everybody knows that an aspirin doled out at the hospital from the nurses' stations does not cost $5 to $10 to $25. That's overbilling. It gets put on the bill. It gets a stamp put on it. Each invoice on overbilling is 3 years imprisonment and $10,000 fine. So I'm bringing that to attention to city halls all over. There's a hospital in this city. There's a hospital in every city as well. I'll be dropping off with the chief. I've already discussed with him through other meetings, enslaving and the mother sister ship. Got a photo of all the proof right here. Law wall, it's an indicting wall. It's all a bunch of fraud. So I'm going to be working on that. And my contact is Bob Wilson at the Utah Salt Lake City FBI. This is where all this is going. I've been dealing with the FBI over there for pretty close to 20 years now. Then we're going to go to blood types, exempt, non-exempt. I know my blood's red because I've seen it. It's not the burgundy toxic fluid that mommy and little sister have in her. I'm using my sister and my mother for examples as females, not attacking any others. Their pictures are on some of this paperwork right here. You'll see my sister kind of related to a cat and some real wicked electronic guys that indict. So I'm working on that as well. And let's talk alcohol. Alcohol comes from the food family. You cannot manufacture charges, anything relating to food. So DUIs can be motioned into federal court and dismissed, and charges can be granted to the city for stealing cars, extortion, your police auto auctions. That's a big multi-million-dollar thing. I'm focusing on California with this, so I won't be bringing it up too much in Wyoming. I'm only here for a couple more months. So I appreciate you talking, or let me talk as well. Satellites to cargo ships. I went to Delaware, as I promised you folks I would, and I returned. And I thought the cell sites were related to the cargo ships out in the ocean. No way they could reach that far. So the satellite controls the nuclear devices in the containers out in the middle of the ocean. That's how they'll radiate the ocean if they plan on blowing it up on the ocean surfaces. We won't have any rain cycles. Wyoming won't see any more green, none. You'll get no snow. You'll get no rain if they radiate these oceans. So I've done that for you folks as well. And if you get that paperwork to the city attorney as well the mayor, I would appreciate it. Meth labs too. So they're on here as well. And I'll be bringing them back to the city council once a month. So I'll be bringing all the locations to that. And appreciate you letting me speak. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vicki Berger. My address is 6898 Casper Mountain Road. I am here as the co-owner of Wind City Books at 152 South Center Street. I'd like to thank all of the council members who read the letter that I addressed to you last 2 weeks ago for your work session regarding the proposed parking meters for downtown. And I'd like to thank you for taking that back under consideration. Parking meters would definitely impact my business downtown. For small business owners, we are working under very small margins, and we are up against, for me particularly, I'm up against Amazon. Amazon uses books as a loss leader. They sell it at my cost. They sell the books at my cost, knowing that you'll go back in and order other convenience items and possibly your big screen TV. And so with parking meters, that would discourage my customers further from coming to me. We work very hard to establish a good relationship with our community and to serve this community well. We take part in a large number of fundraising items for the community. Right now we have a raffle going that will benefit Central Wyoming Rescue Mission, and we also do things to benefit CASA, Hospice, and numerous others, and our school district here. So if we're not here, that's one of the things that this community will lose. And if we lose business from our customers, and I have done a straw poll of my customers who tell me that it would definitely impact their shopping downtown if there were parking meters. Also with parking meters, you will have to employ parking enforcement because otherwise the parking meters are of no use if you're not going to enforce them. And during the time when we have had parking enforcement available here downtown, I have seen a huge impact in turnover in parking spaces. Also, I believe that we as business owners do need to address the use of parking spaces by our employees. Having parking enforcement will help us to do that. My employees do not park on the street. I pay for spaces for full-time employees, and my part-time employees park in the unregulated spots and walk in. But I think we also need to address the problem with the Department of Employment, State of Wyoming employees who do park on the street, because there is no parking enforcement currently. But at any rate, my main reason for coming tonight was to thank you for taking this back under consideration, because it really does have an impact on the small businesses downtown. Thank you.
Any questions? Ma'am?
I'm sorry.
Councilman Bates?
I just want to thank you for investing in Casper and sticking with us and having your bookstore. Appreciate it.
It's something we do because we love this community and we love what we're doing.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tony Stanley, and I am co-owner of a small business in downtown Casper called Steamboat Deli and Outlet. I'm also in support, so I just want to say ditto to everything that Vicki Berger has said, so I'm not going to review all of that. So yes, we've been downtown almost 3 years now, and it is an obstacle for us to have young professionals and state employees, bank employees, be able to park for free all day long in front of our businesses. It really hurts our business. I mean, it's such an attraction to be able to be in a small town of 56, maybe 1,000 people, and to be able to go downtown for a couple of hours and have lunch, or go to a bookstore and buy a book. And to have that availability is very important for a small town like Casper. So I am also in support of not having the parking meters, but of encouraging enforcement and collection. I remember getting a ticket downtown, and I went to City Hall to pay it. I think it was a parking ticket of $15. And because I grew up in Chicago, I know how those can multiply and be a nightmare, so I was on top of it. And I was told later that there was no collection agency, that people just tend to ignore those tickets because there's no one to collect on them. So not only enforcement, but collection also. Thank you very much for listening. Any
Questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. My name is R.C. Johnson. My address is 450 North Washington Street, Casper, Wyoming. And it was a funny thing happened on the way to finding information about the parking situation. On that way, I ran across a thing called the Historic Preservation Plan of 2019. The reason it's a funny thing going on here is this is probably one of the most racist things that has ever been presented and developed. The reason I say that is that I had presented to the Wyoming State Historical Society and provided them a lot of information about my family alone, and indicated to them what my great-grandmother had done here, how the air base that was developed out here, called now Natrona Airport, and how those persons who were identified as colored soldiers had come into the community where they had gone to have a USO. It was my great-grandmother's club. And yet nothing in this document reflects that. Nothing in this document reflects the fact that there were African-American churches, and that my aunt, her father, in fact, established the first black church in Casper. None of that is in this document. I don't know how to even get this corrected, because you guys are going to take a vote this evening, and it's going to be on a minute agenda, which means that there'll be no discussion of it. There'll be no examination of this document. And the fact that this document is as racist as it can be, it eliminates, it just acts as if black people don't exist in this community, have no history in this community. My great-grandmother established here in 1911, and I have the documentation and the pictures that demonstrate that. That church, the Grace AME, is not mentioned anywhere in this. I don't know who was questioned, examined, or talked with about establishing this document. But this document eliminates the entire black community with the exception of the North Casper Clubhouse. So I don't know how you get this to be corrected, but I do suggest that there needs to be some correction. And the funny thing about it is, when I did make a presentation to the Historic Society, they gave me this book as my gift for presenting the information free of charge. But so that means that Wyoming Historic Society is in collusion, that all of this has been put together with the exception of the African American community of this city. How do you do that? How do you develop a document that so excludes a significant part of the community? I just don't understand it. And the only thing I can say is, somewhere or another, this community needs to establish an impact statement. An impact statement that talks about the diverse community and the inclusion statement. So it needs to be diverse and inclusive if you're going to be talking about preserving the history of this city. You do talk about the Oddfellows in there. Interestingly enough, my grandfather was a member of the Oddfellows. And he established a clubhouse for my grandmother on the garage on the back side of the house, which is on the west side of the house. And he developed that clubhouse because she was of the household of Ruth, and there was no place for her to have a meeting with her group. So I've got lots and lots of history. My great-grandmother's club was the USO for the troops, the colored troops. It was also a business incubator. Nothing in this document. Her apartment building that she developed on A Street, when it was called A Street, it's been called B Street, it's been called C Street. That apartment building was torn down through this grand process of urban removal. Not renewal, it was removal. It removed her clubhouse over on Yellowstone and Elk. It removed her apartment building, but Pavelka's Grocers still exists.
Ms. Johnson, your
Yes.
time has expired, and you
That's
got but 30 seconds.
No, I'm fine, I'm done. I'm so done with this process.
And you said you've spoken to the Historic Preservation Commission?
No, I spoke to their organization. I presented at one of their meetings, which means they knew about my history, knew about the history of our family. And I noticed that some of the people on this commission were at that meeting. Some of the people I know personally who had invited me to that meeting. So you can't say, oh, we just didn't know about anybody who was African American in this community. My aunt and uncle broke the color line on housing in this city. But nothing in here reflects that. So I'm done. I'm totally through.
Councilman Pacheco.
RC, thanks for coming up. I've known you many, many years.
Yeah, we have no.
And your fiery brand coming up and.
Firing brand. This is mild.
No, this is true, because I've seen it worse. But I love your heart. So just hold on one second. This is a question for our attorney. There's nothing we can do on a consent item, is there? If we wanted to take a minute to say, can the council review to look at?
Consent minute action.
Other than everyone voting no?
Vote no, and someone could vote, you could bring it back up, or you can move to table, actually.
Well, Mr. Acting Mayor, what I'm wondering, at this point, if it's too late to take this off of the consent agenda, so that then we could, and I was just consulting with Councilman Pacheco, and he was suggesting that if we wanted to have this further reviewed, that probably what we would have to do is to, first take it off the consent agenda, second, then vote no on this at this point, that would then send it back for further review, and then we could see where everything goes from there. Because I understand, ma'am, what you're saying, and frankly, when anything like this gets put together, it's impossible that everything gets included in it. But I think that, from my point of view, you have raised some very important, valid things that probably should either be included in there, or there should be some explanation as to, why they were edited out. And so, Mr. Mayor, what I And I'm kind of asking our attorney if we can take this off the consent agenda, and then if we vote no on approving this, if that would then send it back for further review, or if there's a better way to do that.
Mr. Attorney?
Well, I think you could simply, instead of having that additional step, you could just vote no on the consent for that particular item.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I think you can just vote no on that particular item as opposed to taking it off and then voting no. I think you can still, just in the consent matter, you can simply vote no on that particular item.
Okay.
City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Huber, maybe an appropriate thing to do or to consider additionally would be to have a motion to remove from consent, as I think we've already discussed, but then potentially table it to a date certain that would give council the opportunity to review it more thoroughly, in which case we can bring it up in a work session and have some further conversation, edits that you'd like to see, information that you'd like to see researched further, and so forth. And then, of course, we can follow up from there and prepare a document that we could re-initiate for your formal consideration.
Okay. Councilman Hopkins?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, in addition to that, I think one of the things we've got here is we had an organization by the name of Preservation Solutions, LLC, was the contractor for this work. And I would really like to have Ms. Johnson forward some information and meet with those people pending a new review. They were our contractors for this, and
I was in contact with them.
Well,
That's how I got this copy.
okay. In any case, I think we need to do something different.
Okay. Councilman Bates?
All I want to say is we hear you. And I want to say, from the sounds of it, we hear you, we agree that it needs to be relooked at, and everything you're saying we need to take into consideration, because you are absolutely right. The African American is definitely a huge part of our history, even here in Casper, and we need to have it in there. So I want you to know, sounds like we hear you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think when we get to that point in the meeting, we'll have someone make a motion to either table, or we'll all just end up voting no, or at least I know I will, and then go from there.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name's D.L. Stoops, Box 164, Casper. And I'm here hoping that you can help me understand the situation with the sale of the Plains building. I was away at the time of the last meeting. Perhaps there was some discussion at that time. I wasn't able to attend the meeting, and so I'm really trying to understand how the sale of this building is going to benefit the citizens of the city. And I'm kind of operating from memory here. It seems like several years ago that property was bought for about $3.1 million, if I remember. At the time that was bought, I thought, what possibly can the city do with that building? And and again, I was busy at that time. I didn't attend any meetings, my bad. But I have to think that other people probably had a similar thought. At any rate, the property was purchased for 3.1, and now here we are a few years later, and there's a suggestion that it's going to be sold for 500 large. In my mind, that's a deficit of $2.6 million. That's a lot of property tax. Speaking of which, my property tax went up this year by nearly 20%. My property taxes have gone up pretty regularly over the last few years. And I know one could argue that property taxes are used for a variety of things, but every time we turn around, we see taxes increased. We see people campaigning to maintain the 1%, the extra 1% tax. I was particularly disturbed a few years ago when during a campaign, somebody came out and said, if we don't approve the 1% tax, there are many departments in the city that won't function. That's an optional tax. How can that be made a part of an operational budget? Really have trouble understanding that. And now with all these tax increases, with all these pushes for more and more taxes, now this idea to lose $2.6 million on a single transaction is being floated, and it's being promoted as a good deal for the city. And I'm just having, I'm having a real problem wrapping my mind around that concept. And I'm hoping that before the vote is conducted tonight, there will be some sort of discussion to help me and probably a few other people in the audience to understand this plan. I don't get it.
Anybody have
All I
any
have.
questions for this gentleman? Councilman Hopkins?
I might, Mr. Mayor, I might try and clarify some things, and I know there's been the number of $3.1 million, and I don't contest that. But I think one of the things that's not very well recognized in the community, that two pieces of the property have been sold, and a third piece was traded for a parking lot straight across. The piece of the building where the Nolan actually was adjacent to what was the old municipal garage. Right now, that garage is almost complete because we traded that end of the building for another piece of parking lot to obtain that. So the idea of saying $3.1 million for $500,000 is not quite right.
Okay.
But I understand where you're coming from, and
Okay,
I appreciate
well,
your comments.
And like I say, I've, at one point I've been really busy in my life, and I didn't have a chance to keep track of every little bit of this stuff. And again, I started off by saying I'm kind of operating from memory, and I'm sure there are facts that I don't understand. If those transactions were conducted in a fair manner, I can understand that. But then there is the argument that the building technically has a value of $1.5 million, or if I recall.
Well, it's been a right at almost a 5-year process now, that since we first made this purchase, and there's been a lot of things that transpired over that time frame, and I think some of that's been pretty well documented. At least I think we've got some pretty good documentation on it. So. And
then, as I was walking in, I happened to chat with a lady that was from the Historical Society, and I think her thought, and mine as well, when the facade came off of that building and all the history started to be discovered, I thought, man, how cool is that going to be? Why don't we turn that into some sort of a facility for people to enjoy? And I guess I would argue at this point, in my mind, the 500 large is almost inconsequential. Why wouldn't the city entertain the idea of hanging on to that building? There's all kinds of talk about convention areas and meeting rooms and, any one of a number of spaces that could benefit the public. Why wouldn't we hang on to that building and make it something usable for the citizens instead of taking a huge monetary loss? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Steensland, 533 South Washington. I wish that gentleman would have been around for the last 3 or 4 or 6 months to at least follow this and get some support for myself. I'm very disappointed in the council that you're reconsidering this under the resolutions. It's the first time I've ever known it to be done. Knowing that there's no public discussion under that stage, I was going to wait until it came to that point. I would not have been able to talk then. The first hint I got of that there was council movement to try to change the vote, which was already done after 3 months of intensive discussion and consideration, that they're going to come back now and reconsider it after it was voted down. I expected to come here and hear discussion on a new RFP. That would move the process forward from that point. You took some of the next I heard about this, and I didn't hear this myself. I understand Councilman Hopkins was on the news this morning and went through the proposal that's been presented to the city by Mr. Daigle. My initial comments were, is it legal? And my answer from talking to Mr. Carter is yes, it's legal. Is it ethical? In my opinion, no, it is not. You had a vote. You voted it down. It should move on with the process. Now you come back with a reconsideration. My understanding from doing some research, you will vote on this reconsiderations clause. If in fact you get somebody out of the 4 that voted no to say, yes, I want to reconsider it, then that'll be 1 vote, and it'll move to the next vote. Then you will go back to your second RFP, and which brings in the 500,000 and the reduced tipping, which was all negotiated, which I didn't realize the council or the city could go in and renegotiate with a contractor after the fact. So then if this goes that way, then you'll take a second vote. It will be on that proposal. If that passes, Plains Furniture has been sold for $500,000. I've had a chance to visit with Mr. Daigle. We had a very good meeting. He had a very good presentation. I had a few issues with it. Some of his numbers, you can do almost anything you want with numbers. So they project everything down 15 years. And they show what the city could make off the parking lot, what kind of tax money you can get. It's very, very a good presentation and very, if you don't study it, I guess you would say, what are we not going to go ahead with this thing for? Okay. I'll just drop back to the one that stuck out biggest, or one of the bigger ones that stuck out for me with Brandon's presentation. It's household economic impact. And this was sold on the idea that it would keep the young people in town. They'll have a place to be downtown. They'll appreciate being close to everything. They'll go to the bars, they'll go to the cafes. It'll bring all of our young children back to Casper. Under household economic impact, it lists household A.
1 minute. You have 1 minute.
Oh, 6 people, well, anyway, household A, household income $74,000. Household B, 2 children, or no children, $83,000. Household income. Household C, family with children, $33,000. You look at the sale price of the houses, 2-story house, $368,000. 3-story house, $469,000. How are any young couples going to come back and be able to afford houses in that development? I guess my biggest complaint coming down here tonight was the process. The idea that you would go back to a resolution when you've already voted it out. It just smacks of unethical. I did read the paper article, I don't know who gave this interview, but at least it sounds like there's some movement. Some of you say renegotiate a new price. I'm hoping you'll come up with something better than just a second vote and pass this thing through on a resolution when it should have came down the road as a new RFP or a renegotiated sale price. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Same reaction Mr. Daigle got. That makes me feel good when you get just blank faces up there.
Councilman Pacheco.
I have a question for you, Mr. Steensland. Can you, right here, can you explain to me why you think it's unethical that we just decided to do that? Because everything that I know, I know everything that I try to do is above board and honest, what we do here, and you know that. You and I talk, we're on the phone, anytime of that. I just want to know why you think it's unethical, why we decided to do that.
Because it came out as a resolution where I felt it should come out with more council or with more public input again. It just seemed like a backdoor approach to nullify a 4-4 no vote. 8 council members voted, 1 abstained. I don't know where we sit tonight when it comes to a vote. Charlie apparently can vote absentee. it just is a flawed process, and that's where I come from, and unethical. I don't think any of you are unethical per se.
And maybe that's the only thing that I was taking, because I respect you, and I appreciate you always coming up here and saying your opinion, is just the verbiage of unethical of it, because we get slammed pretty hard on certain things, but I know all these people up here, I talk to them on a regular basis, I know everybody up here is very ethical, and they want the best for this community, and that's the only thing that I would want to say.
I agree with you, and Councilman Johnson clarified before the meeting even started. It was not going to be discussed, so that took away my argument that nobody in the public can discuss it. So yeah, maybe the wrong choice of words.
I appreciate it, though. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Connie Hall, 6224 Gothberg Road, Casper. I'm with the Historic Preservation Commission, and I'm referring to the letter that you received in your packet from us. Thank you for taking the time to read it. And we would like to interject that we are still all about preservation and would appreciate that whatever happens with the building, that it follows through on a historic level, because you have the municipal garage and then you have the firehouse. You have some historic properties across the way. OYD is historic. Downtown Casper became a National Historic District in August of 2016. And we just want to make sure that the integrity follows through on the building with the facade, and we're copacetic with everything that has transformed with the OYD and the appearance of our legacies. And then real quick, I have conferred with Ms. Johnson. I will be contacting her. The Wyoming Historical Society is a different entity than the Preservation Commission. And the plan that you are thinking of adopting tonight on your agenda is from the Preservation Commission. And we have boundaries for the National Historic District of Casper. OYD is over here, and then the sandbar is a different area where most of the blacks were at the time, even though some were in North Casper, some were on the east side of Casper, outside of our district boundaries that we developed for that strategic plan, and the National District that went on the register in 2016. We have in mind, and it is always a process, Walcott District, we will be expanding east. We will be doing something with a local designation on the sandbar. And then, of course, OYD is in its own special entity. But I will be conferring with her and making sure that she becomes recognized. Thanks again. And once again, please keep in mind that we'd like the historical integrity to follow through on the outside of the buildings, and we hope that's what you choose. Thank you.
Questions? Councilman Pacheco.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming up here and talking. So would you suggest then, when we get to that point in our consent, that we pass this? Or if we moved forward, if we did vote no on this, to further research that and go through that, would that be the appropriate step? Or would you say that would be good for us to pass it on this consent item now? Or what would your suggestion be?
When we started the National Historic District, we noticed there's still a lot of buildings out there that are commendable and needed to be involved in a district. But we also noticed that there were not a lot of guidelines.
Okay.
So that was the purpose of the strategic plan, was to make sure that we had guidelines, like the Wyoming National Bank building was able to keep its facade, and he replaced the windows. So depending on tax credits and integrity, authenticity, the windows can be purchased like they were, or you can remove them totally and put in aluminum cased, or anything else. Some of the other buildings didn't have those guidelines set in place, and so that was the main purpose of this. But keep in mind, it's a strategic plan for Casper, but it was developed around the historic district and its boundaries. So yes, I believe it would be appropriate on the commission's behalf and the council's behalf to accept it, to help the guidelines get started, stay in place. And just like with the Plains Furniture, Nolan Chevrolet, we would like to keep those guidelines in place because you have these two entities right beside it that have maintained their integrity and authenticity with the facades. And we would like that building to be copacetic with all of that. So we would appreciate you accepting the strategic plan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilman Huber?
Mr. Acting Mayor, okay, it turned green. Ma'am, if I understood part of what you said correctly, I think you were saying that, in essence, the things that Ms. Johnson was bringing up related to a different part of town or something like that that was not covered by the document that's in front of the council tonight?
Correct.
And do you know of any effort or anything that might be forthcoming at any time to address those concerns that she was?
We have not started any projects like that at this moment, but that's not that we're not open to them. And the Preservation Solutions is changing hands. She may be selling the business due to an illness. So there would be a different contractor involved, but that doesn't mean that we can't go into those entities and establish parts of the Black community that should be recognized in Casper. We're open to that.
To accomplish some of the things that you were, to address some of the needs that you spoke about, are you implying or saying that there would be some negative impact on doing those things if we were to delay if we were to, in essence, table this and delay action on it? Or is that going to hurt anything if we set this aside for a little while and take a little more time to look at it? Or is there urgency in passing this right now from your standpoint?
I think there is an urgency that you guys are aware of what the plan entails and the guidelines that were set beside and in it through public input. And so I'm not sure that a delay would hinder anything.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
To ask for approval of a pay application. It was my notepad. Mayor Johnson, council members, thank you for the opportunity to visit this evening with you about the Plains Furniture sale. My name is Tim Shank. I live at 720 West 51st. I'm a local architect that's been practicing here for almost 40 years. I've been a business owner for almost 30 years on the fringe of the downtown area, and I understand the importance of continuing to strengthen our downtown. I've been involved in a lot of different projects over the years, including the renovation and cleanup of the old Townsend Hotel, and what a difference that made to the Center Street entrance into downtown Casper. And I appreciate you all reconsidering this opportunity to look at the possible sale of this to the developer. I think it's a great idea. I'm all in favor of strengthening our downtown, and one of the best ways to do that is to develop it. And there's been a lot of discussion over the years about developing, but not much seems to happen. And I think this is a prime opportunity to continue to play off the strengths of the David Street Station that was just completed a few years ago. And we've all seen the positive effects that that's had on the downtown area. And I think as you start to bring some of these other businesses in and opportunities for people to reside in the downtown area, you'll see continued development for other businesses that would like to come in, but they need to have that support of housing. My other hat that I wear is that I'm the chairman for the Casper Downtown Development Authority, and we wholeheartedly support this process moving forward with this project. We see from our vantage point the great opportunities that this will provide for not only the downtown, But I think we also need to take into consideration that, you know, we're a community of roughly 60 to 70,000 people, and we're not an area that large developers want to come in and spend money. And so if we show positive reaction to this and indicate that, yes, the city is willing to step up and assist and help in these developments, we'll see other developers come in, I think, as well. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Acting Mayor and Council. My name is Justin Farley, 3511 Carmel Drive, here in Casper. I'm here on the behalf of it's Advanced Casper, formerly Casper Area Economic Development Alliance. And my board is also wholeheartedly behind the sale of the Plains Furniture Building. I believe that I would echo and be repetitive of the gentleman that came before me, but to put it back to RFP in the hopes of somebody coming along and overpaying for the property that was already paid for, I believe that it's imperative that we move forward on it and get the downtown developed, collect those tax dollars, and build on the momentum that we have going on downtown. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Bill Schelling. I'm a resident of Casper, and pleasure to be here. And I'm glad that this discussion item is coming back before the City Council. I quite frankly am a casual citizen of this community, being retired, and when I saw the announcement that an agreement that I thought was set in stone had been changed, I was rather surprised because, quite frankly, I was interested in having some discussions to purchase one of those units. Some 30 years ago, before I came to Casper to run the Wyoming Business Alliance, I had a distinguished career, including vice chair of Endow. I was in Cody. And back then, over 30 years ago, I led the charge to redo the Cody Main Street project, a project that became a springboard to Main Street developments across the state. First was Powell, then Lander, Sheridan, Torrington, Rawlins, all smaller communities, all desperately wanting to have a vital core downtown. There's one common denominator in all of those projects. It's called momentum. Momentum. We have momentum in this community for our downtown, and this project is a springboard for that. It's called entrepreneurship and keeping our young people here. Abate that momentum in this community will go backwards. That's my view. It's a view based on some 35 years of professional experience in this state, a state that I love and a community that I love. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Acting Mayor, members of council, my name is John Griffith, and I reside at 915 South Lincoln here in Casper. I come to you this evening representing a group of business owners and residents that have been excited about the prospect of the Plains building finally receiving the private attention and investment needed to truly transform this blighted and vacant location into a vibrant and thriving enhancement of the downtown revitalization effort. A recently completed city-funded study called the Generation Study highlighted the need for market rate housing in our city's downtown core. Meeting this important need is exactly what this project, affectionately called the Nolan, will do, further building on and solidifying the revitalization of the heart of Casper's historic downtown. Throughout this drawn-out process, we have heard various comments about the disparity between the city's purchase price of the property and the current sales price. These comments, while very public, are simply not true. As you know, the city has previously sold large parcels of the original property and is currently retaining another. We understand that on its face, this still may seem as if the city is losing money on this sale. However, the current sales price is only the cost of admission for this full development. The city's choice to purchase this property some years ago has allowed the city to have the opportunity to determine how this property and downtown will be developed. There is a cost for that opportunity. This development group is fully prepared to spend upwards of $8 million on this revitalization project, making it the second largest single investment into downtown Casper in recent history, only eclipsed by the state-funded new state office building. We do not think there is another entity, public or private, that is willing to invest this level of capital into this property now or any time in the future. We have seen the estimate of the annual taxable sales provided by the development group and feel that they are accurate, albeit conservative. Once completed, we believe the residential occupancy estimated at 43 permanent residents and the commercial lease space estimated to house 50 full-time employees will allow the Nolan development to generate over $1 million in new downtown sales and over $90,000 in sales and property taxes annually. This is a benefit that not only fills the gap in the initial property sales price, but is one that continues and is spread throughout the greater downtown Casper area. We feel it is important to note that there is a critical difference with this project that has not been adequately addressed. From day one, this project will be 100% fully funded privately by this development group. We have seen other projects with great intentions stall, change course, lose momentum, and also stop simply because they were not properly financed. This project does not have that problem. We look to this project not only as an immediate impact to Casper and its many businesses, but also as an inspiration for other parties interested in making significant investments in downtown. Additionally, it should be noted that this development group has already secured a long-term lease agreement with a high-level technology business that is homegrown here in Casper and hopes to remain based in Casper, housed in the Nolan. This company has the very real potential to employ a significant workforce, making high-level salaries that contribute to the overall economic diversification we continue to hear about but rarely see actually implemented here in Casper. As the larger picture of Wyoming's fossil fuel-based economy continues to be questioned, this level of diversification based here in Casper is what our future success depends on.
1 minute.
Most communities in our region would be envious of a private group wanting to make this level of commitment and investment into their downtown. This city council currently has a historic opportunity to support a project that will have a long-standing positive impact to our residents and our city as a whole. The Nolan has the potential to propel current businesses forward and advance future downtown ventures. We urge you to take advantage of this opportunity, and we support the sale of the Plains building to Flag Development. This information was sent to each of you in the form of an open letter shortly after the October 15th meeting where the original vote did not pass. This letter was signed and supported by many people in this room. At this time, I would like the individuals in this room who support this sale to stand up and show this council your support. I thank you again for the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for reconsidering this important matter. We look forward to enjoying the Nolan development with all of you once it's completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Vice Mayor Johnson, thank you very much for the time this evening. My name is Brandon Daigle. I reside at 1544 South Walcott. In an effort to not show 60 slides like last time, I've prepared a movie. So if we could cue this up, it's 3 minutes and 48 seconds. It will be done in my allotted time. much better on this screen than those screens, but it's not quite as gray and dreary. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak with council this evening? Okay. Please read the consent agenda titles.
Establishing November 19th, 2019 as the public hearing date for consideration of the following two items: amending the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to 30 and 40 mile per hour speed zones, and the transfer of ownership for retail liquor license number 18 for 30H7 Hospitalities LLC doing business as C85 at the Wonder Bar to Casper Chop House LLC doing business as Wyoming's Rib and Chop House.
The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, establish the public hearing dates just read.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Pacheco, seconded by Councilman Cathy. Any abstentions or nay votes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
On the agenda is a public hearing for the plat creating the DeWald Divide Addition. However, staff is requesting that the hearing be canceled and the date reestablished for November 19th, 2019. Chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, cancel and reestablish the public hearing date for November 19th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, seconded by Councilwoman Lutz. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
On the agenda is a public hearing for the appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision to deny a zone change of a portion of Tract 4, North Platte River Park Addition. However, staff is requesting that the hearing be canceled and the date reestablished for January 7th, 2020. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, cancel and reestablish the public hearing date for January 7th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilman Bates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 43. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Your Honor, we have 5 exhibits tonight. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Trummel to J. Carter Napier dated October 21, 2019. Exhibit number 2, affidavit of publication is published in the Casper Star Tribune dated October 30, 2019. Exhibit number 3, affidavit of website publication is published on the City of Casper website dated October 23, 2019. Exhibit number 4, affidavit of notice of a conspicuous posting pursuant to Wyoming Statute 12-4-104A as posted at 3095 Talon Drive, Suite number 100, dated October 22, 2019. And finally, exhibit number 5, the liquor license application filed October 4, 2019.
Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, excuse me. This is simply put a new restaurant liquor license. This is not a facility that's had the license in a similar spot like we see in other applications for restaurant licenses. And in case you're not familiar with where this might be exactly, this is over there in the Mesa development across from City Brew. We urge your support for this motion.
Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 43 to please approach the lectern. Good evening. Excuse me? Yes.
My name is Nicole Boltz, and we are opening Ludovico on the 3095, and we are requesting the liquor license.
Okay. Does council have any questions?
Okay. Our
Right.
set open date is November 18th.
November 18th. And what type of food is this?
So we own the Firehouse Pizza here in town, so it's
Okay.
going to be a different concept. So it's farm to wood flame, so it's going to be more local, sit-down menu with servers and 5 different pizza styles, pastas.
Nice. Councilman Bates.
As I like to thank you for wanting to invest in Casper and bringing this in. And as I've said to many other places, November 18th, you will see my face there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor? At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 43 to please approach the lectern. Those to speak in opposition. There being no others to speak for or against the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 43, I now declare the public hearing closed. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, authorize the issuance of restaurant liquor license number 43.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilman Bates. Any discussion? Amendments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Council will now discuss the ordinance amending the municipal code pertaining to trees and shrubs. This item will be open for public comment and for discussion by council. Please read the ordinance as amended and as included in the packet by title only.
An ordinance amending Chapter 12.32 of the Casper Municipal Code.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading as amended and as included in the packet the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilwoman Lutz. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers. Anybody here to speak on this issue?
Hello, name's Adam Walsh.
Good evening.
307 Tree Service. I live at 2947 Saratoga. I just want to reiterate that I understand that this ordinance will not solve someone from hiring somebody who's not licensed or insured. But it does at least act as a deterrent for someone who isn't insured to do work here in Casper. Right now, the way things sit, I'm not required to be insured to do any tree work here in Casper. I'm not required to get a license to do any tree work unless it's in a boulevard strip. So I just think we should do something here to start the process of deterring these odd bedfellows, so to speak, from entering our town and costing people their life or their house or so on and so forth. Either way you guys pass, I'm okay. I've been doing the right thing since I started my business. I'm a small business. I've been able to afford the insurance. I've been able to afford the certificates. I've been able to afford the licenses. Someone who can't afford the certificates or licenses probably isn't insured because that's the biggest expense. So just kind of reiterate to all of you that that's why I'm up here, is to help protect the public. I'm already doing it.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this? Discussion by council? Any amendments? Oh, Councilman Pacheco.
Yeah, I just really briefly, I know this is a third reading, and I don't want to spend too much more time, because I know there's enough support on council for this ordinance to pass. And I just wanted to speak to the family that has brought this to our attention and where we're at with this. Again, I know it's not going to solve everything. I know ordinances and laws are not perfect. They will never be perfect. They will never answer everything, the ills of society. But hopefully this will do some good for someone and save a life. And so again, condolences go out to your family, and know that we're passing this law or this ordinance in your father's memory.
Councilman Huber.
Mr. Acting Mayor, I just want to make certain that we have the amendment that was submitted to us earlier.
Before that, does anybody else have anything else discussion-wise? Okay, go ahead with your amendment.
So I would move that we amend section 12.32.110, which refers to where permits are and are not required. so that it would read that a property owner or a member of the property owner's immediate family, and this is the language that would be added, or a licensed commercial arborist in the property owner's employ who trims or prunes any tree or shrub within the boulevard area of the public street. I would move that we add those, the language that's highlighted in yellow on this document that was given to us before the meeting.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same side.
With all members voting aye, motion to amend passed.
Okay, now we're back to the original motion of the third reading on the ordinance as amended. Do we need another, we don't need another move or second, do we? Okay. Any other amendments? Okay, all those in favor of the ordinance on third reading as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
With council members Bates, Kathy, and Mayor Pro Tem Johnson voting nay, motion passed.
Council will now discuss the ordinance for the amendments to Chapter 10.72 regarding parades. This item will be,
Point of
yes,
order?
yes.
I believe that only had 4 yes votes. It requires 5.
Well, maybe we should just have a division of the House. Have a show of hands or.
Maybe have the city attorney clarify.
Yes.
Is his statement correct?
That is correct. For an ordinance, you need 5 votes.
Okay, so what happens then? City attorney, or city manager?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, one of the things that was unclear to me was where Mayor Powell voted.
Okay.
Did we get him in the count? I'm not sure if we did or not.
In the count with the roll call?
Right.
It said in the beginning that he was here for the Plains furniture sale.
Okay, so he's not still with us. Is that what I understand?
Well, we haven't done the Plains furniture. I don't know if he's still here yet or not. Can he vote on that issue?
Yes, he could have participated throughout this proceeding.
Okay.
If he's can hear us or not, but.
Mayor Powell?
Yes.
Oh, he is here.
Oh, good.
Who's there?
So, okay.
Well, so that it's clear in the record, was that a vote yes or a yes, I'm here?
It was both.
So his vote will count for the tree and shrub ordinance?
Yes.
Okay. Did we do that right? Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, yes.
Okay.
Good point to bring up.
Yeah.
It's been a
The
challenge.
only reason I brought that up is as a point of order, anytime there is an ordinance, it requires 5
Okay. Well,
votes.
well, thank you for that.
That was the only reason.
This is a challenging meeting for me as the stand-in mayor.
Like I said last week, I fully expected the ordinance to pass.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Council will now discuss the ordinance for the amendments to Chapter 10.72 regarding parades. This item will be open for public comment and for discussion by council. Please read the ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance amending the Casper Municipal Code pertaining to parades.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on third reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilman Bates. Council will now listen to public comment. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers. Anybody here to speak on the parade ordinance? Any discussion by council? Amendments? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Council will now discuss the ordinance for the zone change of 1.65 acres in the Garden Creek Square addition. This item will be open for public comment and for discussion by council. Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
An ordinance approving a zone change of 1.65 acres described as Tract A, Garden Creek Square Addition.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Bates, seconded by Councilman Pacheco. Council will now listen to public comment. Anybody here to speak on this issue? Any discussion by council? Amendments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Council will now discuss the ordinance for the updates to the horizontal reference datum. This item will be open for public comment and for discussion by council. Please read the ordinance on second reading by title only.
Amending the Casper Municipal Code to coincide with updates to the horizontal reference datum used by the city of Casper.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve on second reading the ordinance just read.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Cathy, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. Council will now listen to public comment. Somebody here to speak on this issue? Any discussion amongst council? Amendments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Council will now discuss the resolution amending the council rules. Because this is not on the consent agenda, it will be open for discussion by council. Please read the resolution by title only.
A resolution amending the rules of the Casper City Council.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the resolution just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilman Hopkins. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, the nature of this potential amendment is with regard to the rules requirement that would suggest that those who vote, or I should say who abstain to vote, would not be necessary for an action of reconsideration, which potentially is on your plate tonight to consider and potentially move forward with.
Any discussion by council?
Mr. Acting Mayor.
Councilman Huber.
I'd just like to comment on this. Lots of times with reference to rules that we have in place about how to conduct the business, for instance, in this case, the business of the city council. Sometimes, we think that we have rules that are great and wow, this rule is going to just cover everything that happens. And then a question comes along and it's like, whoa, nobody thought about that before. And that's, I think, what we have here is, I don't think anybody ever thought about what would happen if someone wanted to make a motion to reconsider a matter and then a council member who abstained in the original vote and was for the same reasons going to abstain in any future votes is not there for that. Why would that hobble or inhibit the council from moving forward? This is one of those things that I just don't think anybody ever thought about before, but now it's been thought about, and so I think that regardless of anything else that goes on tonight, making this amendment to this rule is a good thing because it'll make things work better. And so I just wanted to kind of lay that out for the record and for everybody so that you'll sort of know what this, the impetus for this amendment to our rules is.
Any other discussion? Any amendments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
I note that the only council member who is not present for this meeting is Steve Friel, who is excused and who abstained from the resolution and also abstained from voting on the motion to approve resolution number 19-211 as amended. I've been advised that one or more council members who voted with the prevailing side during the October 15, 2019 regular council meeting on the motion to approve resolution number 19-211 as amended may want to move for reconsideration. The floor is open for a council member who voted in opposition to move for reconsideration.
This is going to sound a little scripted. At our last regularly scheduled council meeting on October 15th, 2019, I voted in opposition to the motion to approve resolution number 19-211 as amended. I move to reconsider resolution 19-211 as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Lutz and seconded by Councilman Pacheco. Any discussion? Councilman Bates.
So I've said from the very get-go, I love the idea. I love the presentation that was out there. I wish we could throw it up and see it again. The idea behind it is amazing. But also I have not made it, or I have made it clear that I have been against the sales price. To take a loss of almost more than $900,000, and I understand the idea behind that it could bring this much tax revenue. It could bring in our younger generation. It could do all this stuff, and it very well could. And it very well could not.
Point of order, Your Honor.
Yes.
We're not in the discussion phase yet. We're still trying to move forward with the.
Oh, I thought you said
No,
discussion, if we
we
have
are.
discussion.
We are on the, we are.
On the motion to reconsider, though, not on the merits of the project, I think. I think we're in the discussion phase on the motion to reconsider.
Okay.
Oh.
I think you're right.
Sorry, my bad.
And Mr. Mayor, if I might, I would like to address the issue about a motion to reconsider.
Okay.
Because I think there might be some concerns about the appropriateness of motions to reconsider. Motions to reconsider have always been available under Robert's Rules of Order, which is what the council generally operates under. And in essence, what that allows a member of a body, such as the council, to, when they vote one way, to come back later and say, hey, wait a minute, I've learned some different things, or I want to reconsider this. I think that there's some more facts that we need to discuss, or whatever, so that it's not just, well, that's a done deal. Gee, Manise, man, I mean, I made a huge mistake when I voted this way or that way, and there's nothing we can do to go back and fix that. What a motion to reconsider allows a body to do, and specifically a member of a body to do, is to come back and say, geez, I want to discuss that some more. I want to have, I've learned some more things or whatever. There's a whole myriad of reasons, very legitimate reasons potentially why somebody might want to reconsider an action. And it's very important, and that happens in Congress, it happens in state legislatures, it happens in all kinds of bodies, that motions to reconsider are, it's a matter of routine business and things. So I think this is not some extraordinary thing that's being cooked up or anything here. It is a routine matter that's regularly available to decision-making bodies. I support the motion to reconsider.
Any other discussion on the motion to reconsider?
Thanks, Ray.
Okay, the question being called, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And we'll need Mayor Powell's vote as well. Mayor Powell? Is he there?
Sorry, I had muted. Yes, I vote yes.
Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, motion to reconsider passed.
The motion to reconsider having passed, the chair would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 19-211 as amended to permit the City of Casper to enter into a purchase and sale agreement amended to the extent that the tipping fee waiver for construction materials be limited to $10,000 instead of the $15,000 as was stated in the written purchase and sale agreement signed by the Nolan LLC and Flag Development LLC.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilwoman Lutz. City Manager report.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, now we're in a discussion phase, if you would like to continue.
If I may, sorry about that. Like I said, I have a problem with the sale of 900,000 being lost, and I hope that council will take a look at that. A lot of you guys that are out there, you're business owners, or you have business, you've ran business, and I guess I would have to ask the question, how many of you would be willing to take a 65% loss if you went to sell your business today? Would you be willing to take a 65% loss on your business? The Plains Furniture is part of the city's business, and that big of a loss, it eats me up. It's taxpayers' money. It's also because everybody's taxpayers, those who voted or who are for it and those who are against it. But any business person that would take that big of a loss, that would scare me on that aspect of you running a business. Me personally. I brought up, I would like to know, everybody says, well, the market value is what they'll pay for it. I've heard that numerous of times. What was the market value of the state land purchase? I've asked several people how much that state land was sold for, and nobody has given me an answer yet. But I don't think that they took that, I don't think it was a big loss. Stock Up RV. I don't believe that land was probably sold for $500,000. Irish Theater, that is known as the Lyric, was sold for $2 million plus within the last 5 years. There is several businesses around Casper that was sold for higher than $500,000. That's much smaller. To take this big of a loss, I don't think it's fair overall. I do want to emphasize, if Nolan does get established, I think it will be awesome. I think it's a great place. I think it's perfect for where it's going to be. I think it's awesome that they want to stick with the Nolan idea. But I know we're reconsidering this, but council, I'm telling you, the state building's going up, somebody's going to do something with Stock Up RV's old place. We just heard of other businesses coming into Casper. It's worth more than it. Will we get the 1.3 million or 1.4 what it was appraised for? No, I don't believe we're going to get that at all. But do I think we could get more than 500,000? I do believe we could.
Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Just a couple of items. I understand that there is a loss on paper of money, but you have to look at this as an opportunity. What we do tonight will get rid of an opportunity that we have in hand right now. We've got a bird in hand. The state has elected to spend $40 million on land that was purchased from private owners, and they're going ahead with their building. The street beside that, Midwest Avenue, in order to help handle the traffic for the state office building, which will be completed sometime in '22, as I recall, that street has to be rebuilt. The city is spending millions of dollars to do that. that is an opportunity for us to make it work right. The other thing that we've done over the last few years, and we did this, a lot of the people on this council were here when we started doing the David Street Station. City Council, as I recall, put $3 million into that as seed money. Now, I know those folks went out and raised another 5 to make that property happen, and they did that, but it's still a city-owned property. It doesn't necessarily generate tax revenue off of that property directly. The Nolan will do just that. So we put $3 million in as seed money for the Davis Street Station. We have also gotten them a Zamboni, and granted it was a little excess to the city of Casper at one point. And we've also put in $68,000 worth of property in order to swap a piece of the Plains property to get another parking lot. And at the same time, we have gotten the municipal garage almost complete with the exception of one picture on the door. And if you haven't seen those pictures on the door, they're really cool. For those reasons, I look at this as a reasonable investment in our community. And I also would like to point out that they have a $20 million investment of the people that are already in OYD since we started OYD. That also is private investment, not a penny of us. So I'm just saying little seed money here and there will go a long way to make downtown a better place.
Councilwoman Lutz.
So obviously, I'm the one who made the motion, so I have the intention of changing my original vote. And I guess what I would say is, if we're not okay with operating on assumptions of, well, it could make property tax, well, it could make sales tax, then I don't understand how you justify of operating on the assumption of, well, it could be sold for more. It's going to be subjective, whatever side you are on this fence. And so you can't justify not voting for it because we can't solidify future projection tax numbers. Obviously, reasons why I changed my vote, just for full transparency, after meeting with multiple individuals and learning about economic development assumptions and projections. I'm a numbers person. That's been made clear from the beginning. I've ran the numbers myself, obviously took much more conservative assumptions, and it still works. It still writes out. Other things that I don't know that I personally was aware ahead of time was solidified job creation. That was a huge part of our RFP, and we were very, very clear that we wanted job creation to become a product from this. And that has now been confirmed that this will create jobs. And at the end of the day, citizen outreach. I can't imagine a single one of you is not in the same boat I am that hasn't been just overwhelmed with with citizen outreach supporting this project and having positive things to say and that they want us to vote yes on this. And I can't speak for everybody, but I am here to represent the people of my ward. And if they tell me to vote yes for this, then I vote yes for this.
Councilman Pacheco.
Just a couple thoughts. At one point, I woke up and I have a little more gray hair, and I'm not as young and cool as I thought I was. But there's a generation that is coming that we need for our state. And that generation, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, is going to be leading the state. The old guard will pass, as every generation does, and that's just the way life goes. Part of that is that, and when I use the word progressive, I don't use that in a political, ideological term, but what I say progressive is that Wyoming, to continue to thrive and to exist, has got to become progressive in their thinking, to move forward in development and how we do these things. What this idea provides, obviously, we're taking a loss. We understand that. But it is an investment where they are putting in $8 million into the core of the downtown. This is something that will create and will create a downtown that we will probably never see if we do not do these things. So we have to come together, and this is an exciting time for us to have this, to be able to do it, and change is scary. But for us to succeed, for us to grow, for us to continue to move forward, we have to change. And that goes from here all the way to the state legislature in the state of Wyoming, all the way to Congress. We have to learn to change and to do what's for the best of our community. That's why I'm voting yes for this. I think this is going to be a great thing for our community.
Councilman Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. There's a couple of observations that I'd like to make here. There's been a lot of discussion here that this would be sold for less than what the city paid for it. You know, almost whatever happens with this property ever, that's going to be the case. The question isn't so much, well, did the city lose money on this or make money, but the question is, how and why did the city make an investment in this property? And if you look back, the city invested in this property partially with the idea of trying to be able to, nobody likes the word control, but sort of direct the development of that area down there. A lot of that goal has been met, with what's gone on in the old Yellowstone district, what's gone on around the David Street station, what's going on with where the state office building is going to be and all that stuff. So a lot of those investment goals have been met. And would they have been met the same way had the city not bought that and had somebody purchased it and put in a who knows what in there, whatever kind of a business? I don't know. We can look back all that we want, but many of those investment objectives have been met. The question that now is before the council is, what's the best thing to do with this property now? Not what should we or shouldn't we have done in the past, or should we sit here for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or who knows how long in the future. The fact is, we've advertised this pretty thoroughly. This is the only proposal that's come forward. That's why I'm going to be supporting it.
Anybody else? Councilman Cathy.
Looks like everybody else is throwing their 2 cents worth in. Initially, I was opposed to the initial sale of the property because at that time it supposedly appraised for 2.7 and we paid 3. Somebody mentioned 3.1. So basically, we overpaid when it was purchased. That is money that we will probably never recoup, so you have to figure that we need to go ahead almost from the day we purchased it and write off $300,000, $400,000. Like it or not, that becomes reality that that purchase was made back then. By the same token, the fear at that time was that potential buyer could come in and doze it all and just turn it into another big parking lot, which at this point in time, all of the parking studies over the last 2 to 4 years have said we have ample parking downtown. So we don't need another parking lot downtown. We do need what we're talking about here, and being one of the old guards that will soon be going away.
That's not what I meant, Steve.
Well, thank you. Almost did that 2 weeks ago. But what we do need, though, is the development, the diversification. I even look at the oil and gas business right now, and if you stay on top of it, that business is actually starting to slow again. I don't know how many of you are aware of that, but that is fixing to come about again. We have a business here that over the last few days I have learned that we are bringing in something other than oil and gas to our community, which is one of the things we're supposed to be striving for. That is also good. These are not $27 an hour roughneck jobs. These are supposed to be some of the higher end jobs which will go ahead and help develop and promote the area. So all in all, I am actually going to be changing and moving towards the idea that this is something that we need to go ahead and move forward with. I'm not sure even with the new state office building that property will actually increase in value, because there's going to be other properties that will become available when that new office building is built. So I think this, for the overall good and the growth, potential growth of the city, this is a good thing. We talk about the tax money, the property tax money. What people need to understand, though, as well, is that all of those tax money projections up there are actually for Natrona County. They aren't really for the city, because the only part of sales tax money that we really get is the 1 cent, 5th cent. We get all of that. Of the other 4 cents, and I can't break it all down, but I believe 2 cents of it goes to the state. Another part of it goes to the county. We are getting less than 2 cents out of that other 4 cents to the city. So that's something that everybody says it will bring all of the tax money, but it really doesn't. It brings it to the county. And again, this isn't going in my ward, but by the same token, you still need to look out for the city of Casper as well. Otherwise, you don't have a west side. And if you don't have this development, and if you don't have the amenities, and nothing against Shoshone, but that's all we've got is another Shoshone here. And we are trying to grow and develop. And I think we need to move forward. And Shoshone residents, send me your email. But that's kind of where we would wind up going, and we need to try to stay on the edge of development.
I also voted no last time, and I'm changing my vote as well. I received a lot of information that I wish I had had prior to the last vote, because my vote would have been different then. I do think that this is an investment. I do think that this, in concert with the state office building and with Davis Street Station, will continue the momentum that we see downtown. And in 5 years from now, I think this project alone will help develop everything else in the future. And I mean, the sale price is the sale price. I voted no to purchase the land to begin with years ago, just for the simple fact that we did overpay for it by quite a bit. But we do have it, and we have to do something with it, and I'll be glad to get it into private hands so we don't have to talk about it anymore. And I'm not in the real estate speculation business, so I don't know if the land values will increase or decrease. All I know is what it is now, and I can only make my vote based on the information I have today. So with that, Mayor Powell, do you have anything to say? If he's there.
No, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'll just vote when it's time to vote.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Any amendments? The question being called, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Please record the vote.
With Councilmember Bates voting nay, motion passed.
Okay. If you do plan on leaving, do so quietly. I know that there's usually a mass exodus after things like this, so we do have other business to attend to. But you can all stay. It's exciting stuff. Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
Item 13C1, acceptance of the Edward Byrne Memorial Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant Agreement. Item 13C2, the agreement with Gem City Roofing for the Event Center Roof Snow Guards project. Item 13C3, an agreement with Natera Corporation for the Paradise Valley and Marion Kreiner pool lining projects. Item 13C4, an agreement with HDR Engineering for water rights and supply studies. Item 13C5, accepting an easement from the Board of Natrona County Commissioners.
The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent resolutions just read.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Councilman Cathy, seconded by Councilman Bates. City Manager report. Any abstentions or nay votes? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
All members voting aye, motion passed.
Please read the consent minute action titles.
Item 14A1, authorizing the purchase of a Mack Transport tractor truck from CMI TECO. Item 14A2, authorizing the purchase of 2 plow trucks from CMI TECO. Item 14A3, authorizing the purchase of a street sweeper from Hardline Equipment Company. And item 14A4, adopting the Casper Historic Preservation Strategic Plan.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Hopkins, seconded by Councilman Lutz. Any abstentions or nay votes?
Steve Cathy. Councilman Cathy.
Just a second.
Thank you.
Councilman Cathy.
I would like to vote no on the 14A4 Casper Historic Preservation Strategic Plan.
Anybody else? Councilman Bates.
I too will vote no.
Mr. Acting Mayor, I don't know if this is the right time or anything, but I do have a few questions about that. And what my questions really revolve around is how the best way to take into account the many things that the nice lady brought up here tonight. If it's better to bring those things up as a subsequent item to add to this report at some point, or if it's better to kill or table that part of that report now, and then try to see if these things fit into that.
Did you have something, Carter?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Huber, in the spirit, potentially, of bringing more information to bear with respect to this topic, I would humbly suggest that removing this item from consent and then considering it for a tabling motion would give council the opportunity to study the issue a little further. And without the effect of voting the plan down, which after council gets information, may decide that voting the plan down may not be the direction to go, or for some it still may be. But I think with regard to the function of tabling and having more research brought to bear and information, that wouldn't be inconsistent whatsoever with what council has done when questions have arisen pertaining to issues that are unclear.
Mr. Acting Mayor, what I would then like to do is to have this removed off of the consent agenda, and then at the appropriate time, I'd be making a motion to table this in the manner that Mr. Napier just said. I don't know if that's if I'm in order or out of order to do that.
Councilman, I believe that would be out of order. There's been a motion second. If you can convince the movement, Councilman Hopkins and Councilwoman Lutz, that if they would just move for 1 through 3, and then potentially then you can move to table this. But otherwise, that's the motion that's before the council.
How much convincing would it take?
Well, let me back up, just make sure I understand. What you're saying is if I withdraw my motion and we withdraw a second, then we could have another motion to table that particular item. Is that correct?
That's right. You can move to approve the first 3 and then move to table or to a date certain or postpone to a date certain the 4th item if everyone's in agreement.
Then I will withdraw my motion to approve.
I'm not opposed to us reviewing this, but I think that I'm sure that we could ask a whole lot of people to come here and say, oh, well, I have this one particular historic thing that you guys are missing, or I have this one particular shed that has historic value, or my home, or my castle, whatever it may be. I guess my point is, that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about focusing on historic pieces and like buildings. What we're talking about is a strategic plan as a community. And so I guess for me, like, I think that I absolutely think she's right. I do think that we need to find a way for her to get into contact with the right people to include her narrative and to potentially include some of these structures that she's discussing. I don't think that's what the strategic plan is getting at, is excluding somebody specifically. The strategic plan is about setting guidelines so that we can designate areas or events or people or organizations.
Councilman Hopkins.
I'm not sure I'm not getting out of order here because I was going to discuss this after we did something else.
Sorry.
in any case, I concur with what you're saying. This was a plan. It's a historic preservation plan. And it certainly doesn't mention much about black history, but it doesn't mention much about history, period. It basically is a plan for us to look forward to try and do something about getting some of the historic stuff built. Mrs. Johnson talked about a church, and she talked about several other buildings. Unfortunately, we didn't have a plan in place then. And I really think that I would love to see something written about black history in Casper, because they played a big part. Black people played a big part in what transpired in Casper. But I just think it might be separate issues, and I guess I would like to hear more about that, and therefore, you know, I still don't have a problem tabling it if that's what you want to do, so we could perhaps get the whole concept a little different. But I think we did miss it a little bit here, and I feel bad that I didn't think of it when we first looked at the draft. So I withdrew.
So you're withdrawing your motion. Do you withdraw your second?
So I guess I just want to make sure this sounds right. So for purposes of moving the discussion forward, can I withdraw my second, but then ultimately still vote that this moves on, or is that contradictory?
You can vote against tabling it when that comes.
Okay. Okay.
So you withdrawing your second?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, well, Mr. Acting Mayor, to move this along, I would move that we adopt items number 1, 2, and 3 on that consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
Moved by Councilman Huber and seconded by Councilman Bates on items 14A1, 14A2, and 14A3. Any abstention or nay votes on those items? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
The chair would,
Mr. Acting Mayor.
Go ahead.
If being just so anxious. I would now make a motion to table item number 4 on that so that we can try to find out some more information and make sure that plan, frankly, I'm going to confess, I did not look at that all that closely. I have some questions that I want to look at and see in that. And so I'd like to move to table that, and then item number 4.
are you tabling to a date certain?
Well, Mr. Henley is shaking his head, so I think probably that is the best thing to do. I didn't say a date, but yes, I'll move the table to a date certain, and I'll leave to someone smarter than me to fill in a date on that.
How about November 26th?
How about moving it till after the first of the year?
Yes, we've got some, I think this might be something that's going to take a little bit longer than a couple weeks to look at.
I concur.
Still got to pick
Okay.
a date.
So what's your date?
Sometime in January.
Is January 21st one of our regular meetings?
I don't know, I'll look at
Oh, no, I'm
what we got here.
I'm seeing 2 heads shaking yes down there, so
January
21st sound.
Okay, my motion would then be a motion to table to the date certain of the January 21st meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to table to January 21st made by Councilman Huber, seconded by Councilman Cathy. Now we're voting, right? All in favor to table, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Aye.
With Councilmember Lutz and Mayor Pro Tem Johnson voting nay, motion to table passed.
Okay. You guys are really challenging my parliamentary procedure knowledge tonight. This is.
Last one, you had it really easy. We were.
I did.
Quick, so
I did.
making up for it.
All right, at this time, we ask council members to bring forward relevant concerns or items of interest. We'll start with Councilman Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would just like to thank all the folks who were here tonight for, and I'm sure a lot of those people were some of the emails that I got. I haven't had an email storm like that since the smoking issue.
Oh.
And I really believe that we made a good decision tonight, and I think it's similar to when we debated pretty warmly development of the Davis Street Station. We saw fit to give them some money to make it happen and encourage it to happen, and the city of Casper stepped up and made it happen with a lot of contributions. And I think we're very likely to see a similar situation with something along the order of what we've done here would happen again with the old RV store, and we still have another piece of property adjacent to that that may be up for development at some point. And I just think this is a key. It's kind of a spark plug to make it happen. So I think we did good tonight. I thank you for all the support.
Councilman Cathy?
Well, I would reiterate some of Councilman Hopkins' comments about the sale. I remember when we did make the donation to David Street, we were chastised for doing that and how it was going to be a flop. And today, you continue to see through the editorials in the paper the comments of what a great thing that was. There are times that sitting up here, you're almost like the umpire. Half of the people are going to cheer and half of them are going to boo. I think the booers from that move have turned into cheerers, and I look forward in the years to come to see that this too will turn into the cheers. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lutz?
Nothing tonight.
Councilman Bates?
Though I voted no, I'll say it again, I'll be excited to see flag development develop this. The money was an issue with me, and maybe I had blinders on and I couldn't see past it, but the money was an issue of the taxpayers. But, and I'll just continue to say it, I'm excited to see this develop. I'm not against the develop. I've never been against the development of it. I truly mean congratulations to Flags. I can't wait to see it. So I want you to know that. I've been asked questions, and I just want to clarify again to council and to everybody about when a liquor license or any business comes up and it is brought for public discussion, and if, like tonight, Flag did not come up and do a presentation for Plains Furniture or the prior time, and they just expected us to vote, rubber stamp, yes, we're going to vote for it, but never presented it, never said what they're going to do with it, nothing of that sort. I kind of wonder how many people would vote and would vote yes for it. So when it comes to a business being brought or a new liquor license going to another place, if a person is not going to come and say, hey, I support this for my business to get this or get that and want to build this or create that, I will vote no every single time if you're not going to advocate for your business. I can't vote yes for it. So it's been brought, why do I? So I just wanted to clarify again why I vote no regarding that. Other than that, that's all I have. Oh, if I may, sorry. Snow's been here, gone, coming back. If you have campers, trailers, boats on the Casper City streets, please remove them to allow the snowplows to actually be able to do their job. It is against our rules or our laws to have them on the streets, but it is really hard for our snowplows. So please, anybody that hears it, please remove them with all respect for the city. That's it.
Councilman Pacheco.
Nothing really tonight, but I just wanted to recognize these two young men over here.
They're looking
They're
enthralled.
emphatically listening to us. Look at the attention. Do you guys want to come up here really quick to the come over here to the microphone? Introduce yourselves and who you guys are with.
They're like, where are we?
Come over here to the microphone, guys, and introduce yourself really fast. And you guys are Boy Scouts?
Yes.
What troop?
Troop 67.
Awesome. Cool. What are your names?
I'm Kelsey and he's Sebastian.
Awesome. Well, welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. Was it riveting tonight to see?
It was long.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks. I just wanted to say hi and tell you thanks for coming in here and seeing it, okay? Thanks, guys.
Is this for citizenship in the community, or is this for one of your?
This is for him. I've already done it. I think it was either last year or the year before last year. I think it's citizenship, nation or citizenship, the world. I think
Okay.
it's for the community. So it would make more sense because this is just local. It's not for the entire state or the country or all the other countries combined.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
Is that it? Councilman Huber.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. I'm not going to embarrass anybody by asking them to come down, but really, though, guys, thank you for coming. And watching government in action sometimes is long and sometimes it's not very exciting, but it's important, and it's important for people to know what's going on. I would like to kind of echo something that Councilman Bates said. Frankly, I'm amazed, since I've been on the council, how many times, and I will specifically single out liquor dealers, if I had a business that depended for its very livelihood on a license issued by the city, I would be here every single time there was an issue coming up on that. It is amazing to me that some of those people are so lackadaisical, and I hope they just don't take it for granted and think that, well, that's some great right that they have and everything, because if they're watching or listening out there, I'm telling you guys, if your business, if you cherish your business, pay attention and come down here and stay on top of things with those licenses and that kind of thing. Okay, I'll get off of that high horse. There are a couple other little things that I'd like to bring up. I don't know how many of you might have noticed in the newspaper the letter to the editor, $60 million for police station. Wow. Well, where'd that $60 million come from? You know, the good person who I've known for a long time who wrote that letter to the editor was absolutely mistaken. No, there's not $60 million. It's half that we're talking about. But that's the kind of misinformation that gets out there. Now, I'll bet you that there are a lot of people running around town that think that the city's already spent $60 million for something that we haven't. And that is just gross misinformation. The other thing that I wanted to mention real quick, Councilman Hopkins and Mayor Powell and I here a couple of weeks ago attended a little meeting with a citizens group who wants to get together and try to potentially do some fundraising and some things for some expansion at the Fort Casper Museum. And I think they'll be wanting to come in and address the council, probably in a work session sometime. And I would just kind of prepare everybody for that'll probably be coming along. And they're pretty enthusiastic about wanting to get together with the city and do some fundraising to promote the Fort Casper Museum. Thank you.
Just a couple things, just to correct one issue. Flag did come down here and present to us last time and this time.
Right. What I said is if they didn't.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, the other issue to me too is personally, I have a very libertarian viewpoint, so I think liquor licenses, having a license to sell a beverage in and of itself is ridiculous. I think it's even more ridiculous to demand that these business owners come down here and grovel in front of the Crown to please give us a license so we can keep our business. I think that if you have an issue or you want some more information, it's not that difficult to go find that business owner and ask those questions. So, anything else? Mayor Powell, do you have anything? If he's still there.
I am still there. I just want to thank you all for your effort this evening.
Okay. All right, the next meetings of the City Council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday, November 12th at 2019 in the council meeting room, and a regular council meeting held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 in the council chambers. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and during this meeting was given. We have a matter to discuss regarding land acquisition and personnel. Therefore, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session, and at the conclusion of that executive session, to reconvene this regular meeting solely for purposes of adjournment of this regular meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Bates, seconded by Councilwoman Lutz. There being a majority of members present and a motion to adjourn into an executive session having been moved and seconded, that motion requiring a 2/3 majority of the council present. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
With all members voting aye, motion passed.
A greater than 2/3 majority of the council present voted in favor of the motion. We are hereby adjourned into an executive session.